leaves are starting to turn colors. So are some of the elm. It's a good sign. Fall will be here before you know it, and it cannot get here soon enough. Talk about high grade material. This is about as good as it gets for our part of the world. Heart dead center, fairly thin sapped, uniform bark, no worm, good looking tree. Now this big devil, that is a big devil. Hopefully it cuts just as good. We've got a little cluster up here, both sides of this ditch. This ditch is too deep to cross the skidder. We'll have to go the long way around. Of course, we got another walnut there, got 3 or 4 down there, got some bur oak. Got some pretty good sized walnut across the creek. That one big tree you see right in there, that's a big walnut. Definitely a lot more fun than cutting the maple and ash for sure, especially when they're cutting like that. That's kind of, you don't expect them to cut that good usually in our part of the world. But this is pretty good dirt over in here in this creek bottom. Getting a lot of water. Fighting for growth. So let's hope the next one cuts just as good. Look at the bark on these trees. You can tell sometimes the walnut, the way the bark is, kind of how they're going to cut. You know if they're going to be good quality or got a chance of going bad. Just the overall, the way this bark looks on these trees, you can tell they're going to be good trees. We just hope that that one's going to cut out like this first one did here. Ready to go. Easy. Oh my. Look at that. Got a hard leaner here. Even in the looking through the video here, like from what I see through the camera and what I see in like real life, the camera's not really doing it justice on how hard this thing leans. Got a big top, leans out there pretty hard. We're gonna put a notch and a hinge in this, as bad as I hate to. I hate hinging walnut. I absolutely hate it. But what we'll do is when we hinge it, we won't leave a full length hinge. We'll actually kind of bore back into the center and just try to leave 2 little tabs that bring it on over once we clip it. We'll wait for Dad to get this one here down. We'll drop this guy. this exactly right here is why I don't like hinge and walnut, because walnut's really brittle. And just like that, it was a hard leaning tree. I tried to come back in and bore out the center here, as you can see, and still I left a little too much fiber. And we didn't hurt the tree bad, but for my standards, I like the stumps to be perfect. You know, this back here, we can trim that off, obviously, to make it flush. We had fiber pull on this back root, but this little bit here, I mean, if anything, it's good that it's off hard, off center, but still, we don't like to fiber pull up into the tree like that, split them, which, not terrible. Probably the safest way to bring that tree down. You can see it was a heck of a mess with this elm here and these other small hackberry and elm. I'm just glad it fell. We can get it worked up, but definitely, that's a big reason why we don't hinge our walnut, guys, right there. I hate to see stuff like that, even though it doesn't hurt the tree too much for our standards. When we're laying these good logs in, we want them all to be perfect. This one here turned out a little better. You can see I tried to trim more of my tabs there, but it makes me, it's not a style that I'm very used to using anyway. I get along with it really well on my maple and ash, but my walnut, I just do not like cutting my walnut like that. But sometimes I really feel it's the best way to do it, especially on these hard leaning trees. It kind of eliminates a lot of that kickback when they jump off the stump. You know, the maple and ash, I almost feel it's kind of dangerous to cut that stuff because it's just like it'll bust and blow up on you. And ever since I was a kid, before I ever started cutting, my dad's always told me, he said, you got, you know, your maple and your ash, your hackberry, you know, it always tells me it's dangerous. And so from a young age, I always had kind of a fear or respect for it. So that's a lot of the reason I use those hinge and notches on that. We're not, my dad doesn't use a hinge at all, never has. He pretty much strictly bore cuts. And that's what he's comfortable with. That's where he's at home. You know, he's been logging for 61 years. So that's how he's always done it. And I don't see him changing anytime soon. He's 77. So anyway, we'll get this one worked up. We're going to start dragging out because this big one here, we need to get these two out of the way. Because when this big one here comes down, it's going to cover some things up. Then we got some bur oak here behind us. Then you can kind of see that double right there. That's another good walnut across the way. And there might be one or two more up this side of the draw. Got a really good bur oak right there. Really good tree. I hope I can get to that before Dad. He's cut all the good ones this morning, so I'd kind of like to get a little of that action myself.